Welcome back again, dear friends and deep thinkers, to Galaxy 3 of the Grand AI Tournament in Stellaris. First, we have the Klenn Animators. They're a super special thing. They're a Reanimator Bandit Kingdom, Barbaric Despoilers, Reanimators, Authoritarian Xenophobe Militarists. They're really special. So, what is it about them? So, dictatorial shrinks the empire a bit, minus 10%, very powerful, especially for the AI. Dictatorial or imperial generally works well because the AI doesn't profit from different leaders so much. So, and we also have Necroids, we'll come to that. So they are Reanimators, which means they have Necromancers in dread encampments. They can have undead defense armies and undead armies. The Necromancers will produce research points, naval capacity from consumer goods. And defeated organic armies will come back sometimes as undead armies. Defeated organic leviathans can sometimes be resurrected. Very powerful. Also barbaric despoilers, which means they cannot form migration treaties. They have highly reduced diplomacy. Cannot form but join federations other than martial alliances or hegemonies. Has the despoliation casus belli on all other empires. What does that mean? It unlocks the raiding bombardment stance, which in turn allows us to abduct pops from besieged planets and resettle them to our own world. So they're stealing population. It's crazy. Decreased opinion for most other empires. So a really crazy undead population stealer empire dictatorship. They're authoritarian, which helps them get a little bit more influence and worker pop resource output. They're xenophobes with a little bit more pop growth speed. And starbase influence cost reduced, also can enslave aliens. Well, they grab the aliens, and then once they're there, they're getting enslaved. Also from authoritarian, so double enslavement, right? And militarist gives them the no retreat war doctrine and just a good start, with claim influence cost reduced by 10% and ship fire rate increased by 10%. The Klens are Necroids, which means they don't reproduce naturally. But as you can see here, they don't have like the Necroid trait, apparently. So they're conservationists. Pop consumer goods upkeep minus 10%, which is always a help for the AI, so they don't have to care for that, even though the new AI does it really well. They're intelligent, so they get a little bit, 10% more research output from jobs, and they are strong, 2.5% more worker pop resource output. But more importantly, army damage plus 20% will help with the wars, which they'll profit from. They're decadent, worker happiness and slave happiness goes down by 10%, which makes a lot of sense. They will enslave people, right? That's the idea. And then slave happiness doesn't really matter for dictatorships. They just have to keep them in check. They're also deviants. Governing ethics attraction minus 15%. We'll see how that works out. They don't have any focus on unity, which is just an interesting thing to see. They are starting with a syncretic evolution, starting the game with 12 pops of another subservient species. From Naismith Gaming, the Klenn people evolved alongside the Scuttlers. A series of wars resulted in the dominance of the Klenn and the subjugation of the Scuttlers. With their dominance, the Klenn turned their dread knowledge to necromancy. Now, if only they had more people to practice on. They're coming from the Arctic world of Atom Lozun, and we'll have a deeper look into the syncretic species. These plants here. The Pelisiman people were conquered long enough ago that their only culture is hidden in their names, or else the dominance of their overlords. All else has been forgotten. So they're called the Scuttlers by the Klenn. What are their traits? You can see it here. They're serviles, of course. Happiness 10% more, and resources from jobs 10% more. Cannot generate leaders, cannot be employed in ruler or specialist jobs. They're budding. So they reproduce a little bit more through monthly organic pop assembly for each pop working as a slave or better. They're also phototrophic, replaces 50% of base food upkeep with energy upkeep. So adding a little bit of flexibility here. Unruly also, which is interesting, might lead to problems. Empire size from them, they are growing a little bit faster, plus 10%. So quite interesting combination with the Klenn Animators, and really looking forward to see how this very special construct, the Klenn Animators with a great backstory, performs. Then there is the Drack Union, an imperial theocratic monarchy with one more power projection. As I've already said, imperial and dictatorial are usually relatively good for AIs, just because they don't profit from a changing ruler so much. I really like the logo here. They're starting on New Sharaka, the continental world, looking very dragon-like. They have mining guilds, which give a nice starting advantage. Minerals from miners +1, and with a police state. Unity from enforcers and later telepaths increased by 1, helps with the unity. And 5 more stability, which always helps with just about everything. They are authoritarian, allowing for a stratified economy, saving resources, can enslave aliens, and cannot use democratic government forms. But they have 0.5 more monthly influence, which helps with expansion, and worker pop resource output plus 5%, which is just a little bit like helping, together with the mining guilds at the start. They are militarists, which is especially strong at the start. Later on it kind of loses a little bit, but claim influence cost minus 10%, still very good. And ship fire rate plus 10%, very good at the start. Can use the new retreat war doctrine. They are also spiritualists, can build the excellent temple buildings, but cannot use full AI rights policy. Monthly unity is increased by 10%, which is a really good boost. Edict upkeep and edict cost goes down by 10%, which helps with the new edict system like a lot. It's really cool. They are also natural sociologists. So the Brill here, interested in biology and sociology. 15% more society research from jobs, which is generally very helpful, mostly at the start. Mostly at the start, when you get new worlds and colonize them and improve them. And intelligent also keeps the long run approach too. I mean, intelligent is good throughout the game. It helps at the start, but it's like one of the slower startups. But it keeps its intelligence, keeps its charm. It's just like that. And then we have rapid breeders, which of course 10% more pop growth speed helps a lot at the start, and later on intelligent will take over and ship them forward. So they have a good mixture of early and late game advantages, a little bit more towards early game, which is definitely a good thing. Their disadvantages is slow learners, which keeps the leaders a little bit down, 25% less leader experience gain, but they will live with intelligent, they will live relatively long very soon, so it's an okay trade-off. They're also non-adaptive, with habitability minus 10%, and they are starting syncretic evolution, which will maybe do something special. So, of course, natural sociologists with the new colony technologies helps to counteract non-adaptive very early on. Let's see about their backstory and their the other people that they have maybe enslaved. We'll see. The Brill were looking down on the Holy Roman Empire of humans when the news reached them that their homeworld, Sharaka, suffered a comet strike. With little other choice, the Queen Mother ordered landfall, and the humans, used to worshipping gods, soon agreed the Drack Union was the one true religion. So it seems like, is it the humans? Yes, they have humanoid slaves. Human apes. The apes. They're calling them the apes. And let's see. Of course, there's serviles. Increases their happiness by 10%. Resources from jobs also increases. Yeah, well, the resources by 10%. Cannot generate leaders. Cannot be employed in ruler or specialist jobs. So slow learners doesn't really affect them because they don't have leaders. On the other hand, non-adaptive can be a little bit limiting, but habitability is not so much a problem in this patch, so it's okay. They're also docile. Empire size from the syncretic species is reduced by 10%, and rapid breeders, pop growth speed increased by 10%. So in the end, they will probably have maybe a little bit more people of the syncretic species compared to the Drack Union, even though they also have rapid breeders. So we'll see if it goes hand in hand or if the surveillance will take over one day. I think they have good chances if the AI manages that well. We'll see how it turns out. They have balanced traits, but the outlook with the syncretic species is always difficult to see with the pop growth system. Then we're coming to the Tebrid Homolog. The Tebrid Homolog was submitted, and it's I think a direct copy from a pre-made, pre-scripted Empire from Paradox. A very good one, though, and very enjoyable to play. So it's a machine intelligence, a catalog index. What does that mean? It gives extra pops when establishing a colony. Monthly mechanical pop assembly +1, mining station output plus 10%, empire size from pop minus 15%, empire size from planets plus 50% though, and pop growth reduction 50%. They're driven assimilators, meaning they will assimilate organics, first as cyborgs and then into synthetics and into machines as they are. Assimilating an organic pop generates a small amount of unity and society research. Non-assimilating organic pops are automatically purged over time. It has the assimilation casus belli on all other empires, decreased opinion for most other empires. So they want to integrate people. And it has in the past been very, very strong tactic. They also have static research analysis, giving them more research alternatives and one more code breaking. Research alternatives are not that strong for the AI. Give the AI a choice. It's not the strongest thing, but code breaking +1 is still handy. They are a Gestalt consciousness, reducing their war exhaustion gain by -20%, increasing their monthly influence by 1, and their encryption is also increased by 2. So they are generally very good at spying and at leading wars, at least in the result. Of course, they are machines. They can settle everywhere where there's habitable planets. They have enhanced memory. Leader level cap is increased by 2, which is very helpful with machines because they are potentially immortal. They have logic engines, increasing their research output from jobs by 10%. Really good. They are also, as a trade-off, they're custom made. -15% pop assembly speed, so they'll take longer to produce more of these machines here. And they're luxurious, increasing their pop assembly cost by 20%, but that really doesn't matter too much because they're slow at it. They're also remnants. This civilization once spanned the void, controlling much of the galaxy. They were eventually defeated and almost destroyed, but after a long period of destitution, they are returning to the stars. And now we're looking into it because they also have a cyborg species attached. Their appearance is like this. It's from the Necroids. They are called the Theia, and their traits are, of course, cybernetic. 20% more habitability, 10% more army damage, and leader lifespan plus 40 years, which is interesting because they, the cyborg species can have leaders. They're ingenious, energy credits from jobs plus 15%. They're talented, 1 more leader level cap, so they will definitely have cybernetic leaders. And leader experience gain 25% more for the cybernetics. So they have a wide array of leaders available, and if you take advantage of that, then you will have, as a player, some very good choices available. But we'll see how the AI treats that. They're also slow breeders, decreasing their pop growth speed, like fitting the machines themselves. So they both won't have much population. So none of these will like take the lead, but on the other hand, they have a very good quality of people. They have very good leaders. They have very good research output. They will thrive through their leaders and through their choices if the AI makes the right ones. Definitely a very strong empire for a player. We'll see how the AI does with it. They get a very strong start with a relic world from Remnants. Here we go with the second Madman Reich. I think I know what this is referring to. Right. We have Adrian Holt, the male, leading them on the insane Earth, a relic world. So they're Remnants. They're a democratic purity assembly. Automatic resettlement chance plus 50% helps with democratic. And that's really the strong point. And for the player, a choice is always a good thing. Fanatic purifiers. This society appears hellbent on scouring the galaxy of all other sapient life. Cannot engage in diplomacy, cannot access a galactic market, has always purification casus belli on other species, so they always have a war reason. Xenopops will always be purged, cannot be integrated, gains unity from purging Xenopops, may use the Armageddon bombardment stance. Also, ship fire rate increased by 33%, army damage increased by 33%, ship build cost decreased by 15%, and naval capacity increased by 33%. So, if they can survive being alone, they are just really strong militarily. They also have citizen service, increasing their naval capacity further by another 15% and increasing unity from soldiers by 2. Helping out with all of the unity thing. They are fanatic xenophobes, giving them a boost at the start with starbase influence cost minus 40%. Very good reduction. Pop growth speed plus 20%. They can also purge and enslave aliens. Of course, they can't do that from fanatic purifiers alone. Cannot have refugees and everything like there. At least not refugees welcome. They're also militarists, can use no retreat war doctrine, claim influence cost minus 10%, and ship fire rate plus 10%, which is very strong at the start and okay later on. They're, on the other hand, unruly. Empire size from Popes is increased by 10%, so they will be hard to spiral out of control, right? And wasteful. Pop consumer goods upkeep plus 10%. But the AI has been upgraded to manage that well. They're intelligent. Increased research, 10% more research from jobs. Rapid breeders gives a great start. Pop growth speed increased by 10%. And nomadic. Getting further pop growth from immigration and reduced resettlement cost. Resettlement cost is usually a very good thing if you have something like that is rather authoritarian, because that you can resettle easily, but even here it's a good thing. They're starting on the relic world of insane Earth, and they are remnants. The civilization once spanned the void. They start on a size 22 relic world. The Madmen are humans from a timeline that was bright and hopeful, but turned into a grim dark age of madness during the collapse of the Interstellar Terror Coalition. Now the new Madman society had arisen, and it will purge the Xenos who had wronged them from Tau, from Discord. I mean, that's really one of the empires I call a coin flip empires. So if they manage to somehow survive, then in the end, then they have a real chance to win. So they usually get to be outliers. Either they fail early, or they win late, or they might even win at the start if they get a really good start. We'll see how it happens with the second Madman Reich. Really looking forward to it. Similarly aggressive seem to be the Greenskin Warbands, but they are not as mad. They come from the alpine world of Bedrock. They're leader the Beak of Ivory. They're an oligarchic military junta with faction unity gain plus 15%, so in the long run they'll have more unity. They have a distinguished admiralty. Admirals and generals start at level 3, which is very good. Ship fire rate plus 10%, admiral level cap plus 1, and fleet command limit plus 10. So they have a really good admiralty. Just nationalistic zeal adds that war exhaustion gain is reduced by 20% and claim influence cost is reduced by 15%, which is just extremely good in a military environment. They are also authoritarian, allows for stratified economy living standards that are relatively cheap. They can enslave aliens, cannot use the democratic government forms though, but they have monthly influence plus 0.5 and worker pop resource output plus 5%, so they can expand a little bit faster maybe. And their workers will do just a little bit more at the start. That is very relevant. Same goes for fanatic militarists. The ship fire rate of plus 20% is excellent at the start. Claim influence cost in case of a war minus 20% really helps too, taking some area. They can also use the no retreat war doctrine. And they have some more specialties. They are clone soldiers. Their governing attraction is plus 50%. Their leader lifespan, on the other hand, minus 40 years. So they won't live that long. The army damage is increased by 50% as well, cannot be genetically modified or reproduced naturally. And they have additional traits and bonuses, very good ones. They are resilient. Defense army damage increased by 50%, so they have really, really good armies. If anyone tries to invade them, their core planets where they have their where they produce their clone armies, then it will be really, really hard, because they're also very strong. Army damage increased by 40%, worker pop resource output increased by another 5%. Just incredibly strong troops. They are, on the other hand, non-adaptive, minus 10% habitability, which might be a problem expanding. But they will expand in another way. They will not expand by themselves. They will have other people to expand for them. So they're a clone army, a species of short-lived and infertile soldier clones. They're starting with 2 ancient clone vat buildings on the homeworld, producing clone soldier pops, and ancient clone vats have an empire limit of 5, so they can build at maximum 5 ancient clone vats. Clone army admirals will grant an additional 25% ship fire rate and 10% more reduced ship upkeep. That's really, really cool. That's like 25% ship fire rate is what you get from 5 levels of Admiral. So you have the Admiral start at level 3, basically plus 5 here, but with something open, so they have 10% more ship fire rate from that. And then they have 25 additionally, so that's 35% ship fire rate. Then they start at level 3, that's another 15%, so we're at 50% ship fire rate. They have fanatic militarists, so they have a whopping plus 70% ship fire rate at the start. So if they decide to go over to someone and invade them with some good ships, they can do it. 70% more ship fire rate from the start and extremely excellent soldiers. I think this is a well thought out thing, and if the AI manages to play aggressively with them without getting rolled over at the start, they can do really well, because they will also not have like a big handicap in joining some kind of federation or something. So they can do really, really well if the AI manages to play them so they don't get annihilated early on. Wow, is their backstory. Wow, is what they go when they invade the galaxy. The Empire of the Everlasting Dragons on the Alpine world of Erie is a very, very interesting imperial cult. They're imperial, their power projection goes up by 1. They're also an imperial cult, which increases their edicts fund by a whopping 100. So you can have, at the start at least, all the edicts that you want. They're also Pompous purists, can only engage in diplomacy with other empires if they are the proposer. Trust growth is increased by 30%, available in voice by +2. This means they are also xenophobes. It's the xenophobe diplomatic version. Very, very interesting combination, especially for an AI tournament. They are authoritarian, helping with monthly influence, expansion, worker pop resource output early on. Can enslave aliens and allows stratified economy living standards. Very good standards if you can keep the population happy, saving a lot of resources at the start. Xenophobes can purge aliens and enslave aliens, cannot give aliens full citizenship or full military service, cannot use refugees welcome. Their starbase influence cost goes down by 20%, which is a big thing at the start. And pop growth speed is increased by 10%, which is just a good bonus at the start. It's perfect for the start. Spiritualists, monthly unity plus 10%, edict upkeep minus 10%, and edict cost minus 10%. Combine that with the Imperial cult, and you have just all the edicts you want. Also, you can build the excellent temple buildings, and on the other hand, can't use the full AI rights policy. So you will probably forego advanced robots. They are also lithoids. So they are lithoid dragons, consuming minerals instead of food, decreasing their pop growth speed by 25%, and also their pop assembly speed. Increasing, though, their habitability by 50%, army health by 50%, and leader lifespan increased by a whopping 50%. So, and they are also unruly, which is not so much of a problem, because they won't have many pops quickly either. So empire size from pops plus 10% doesn't really make a big difference for them, at least at the start. Solitary pop housing usage plus 10% also isn't a big problem at the start. These two are not bad at the start, and which is why they might have a great start. And they're also industrious, which helps a lot at the start, with 15% more minerals from jobs, intelligent, 10% more research output from jobs, and strong, 20% more army damage, and 2.5% more worker pop resource output. Additionally, they are protected by a giant dragon, probably their space mother. Start with a space dragon roaming the home system. They have different events, and in the end will unlock dragons to fight for them. If they manage to do them, the dragon may protect you from harm, but beware its wrath should you displease them. From the moment we first gained intelligence, we knew we were special. As the lesser beings of our homeworld succumbed to entropy, our stone bodies stood forever. Our society grew to dominate this world, but we yearned for more. As our knowledge of the universe grew, we glimpsed the hidden truths and patterns behind it. As the first explorers ventured out into the void, we discovered it. It is the avatar of divinity itself, watching over us so that one day we may claim our rightful destiny. It was then we decided that we were to rule the stars and all lesser life forms that dwell among them as living gods, and nothing would stand in our way. The reign of the everlasting dragons had begun. I think calling dibs for that. I think that's a very well-designed empire, also for AI. And I think they'll do well. I might be totally wrong, though, because they're also very special. And simple is often beautiful in the AI tournaments. And we come to the one of the good empires, if you want so. It's Theia's Equality. It's a democratic, moral democracy. Automatic resettlement chance plus 50%, especially in the late game, it's very good. They're starting on an ocean world, but they are not aquatic, on Lost Theia. They have an idealistic foundation, which gives citizen pop happiness plus 10%, which is a big deal at the start. Diplomatic corps plus 2 available envoys and 10% more diplomatic weight. And just something good. They don't... They will not have problems diplomatically. If they want to join a federation or create one, they will be able to do so. They are also fanatic egalitarian, increasing their faction unity gain by 50%, allows utopian living stands. If they can afford it, it's very good, and specialist pop resource output is increased by 10%, which is just extremely good, because that's where the value is, right? In the specialist pops, there's even more value. The worker pops are the fundamental things, and if that gets going, then you get the specialist pops going, and they will spiral you out of control if you do well. So treat your workers well, and then the specialist pops will go off. Pacifists, as well, cannot use unrestricted wars policy, cannot engage in indiscriminate orbital bombardment. It will lead to a difficulty to grab land for them. But their empire size from pops is decreased by 15%, and stability is increased by 5%. So all in all, they will do well if they can build a somehow tall empire. We'll see how good that is, and how good the AI will be able to do it. They are slow learners, leader experience gain minus 25%, which can be set off by a longer lifespan, by their probably a little bit more research when looking at all of that. There's sedentary. Pop growth from immigration goes down 15%. Resettlement cost goes up 25%. Not that relevant, maybe, the automatic resettlement chance. They are charismatic, get more amenities from jobs, 20% more, which is always a big plus for the AI if they don't have to manage that so carefully. They're docile. Empire size from pops goes down by 10%, so even if they have a big empire from the pops, they won't have problems for it. So all in all, it feels like it's just a well-rounded empire. They're starting on a prosperous unification, so they start with 4 additional pops and 2 additional districts, which AI can usually use very well. It's a good starting advantage, and the other things here will lead to their long-term advantages mostly. I mean, the idealistic foundation is also a starting advantage. So it seems a well-rounded, friendly civilization, unlikely to lose early or win overwhelmingly, but we'll see. Maybe they can edge themselves forward. Maybe they can do it. They seem so well-rounded. Who knows? The stars are the limit, right? Then we have the Navin Republic, looking very warlike, but they're actually technocrats. Science Directorate, 15% more faction unity gain, because they're an oligarchy. And they're a technocracy, replacing some politician jobs with science directors, and the scientists have twice as high a chance to discover a technology that falls within their field of study, which is a big advantage for the player, not so much for the AI, and research alternatives +1. So as a player, you can steer your research much better with a technocracy. As an AI, we'll see if the new plans are as effective. They're also a meritocracy, meaning they have 1 more leader level cap and 10% more specialist pop resource output. That is always very good combined with something like technocracy, because you have very good specialists, and if they even put out more, then it's a very, very good situation. Adding to that with Egalitarian, faction unity gain, 25% more unity, cannot use autocratic government forms, but utopian living standards, very good. Specialist pop resource output is increased by 5%, so we have 15% more specialist pop output. That also goes for alloys and something, so it's just a very good combination. They're also fanatic materialists. It allows also for academic privilege living standards. So you have the choice between utopian and academic privilege living standards, both very good. Utopian even better. Cannot use AI outlawed policy. Cannot use robotic workers outlawed policy. And they don't want to, because robot upkeep is -20%, research speed +10%. Just very, very good. They're intelligent. Increasing the job output of research even more by 10%, and non-adaptive, which decreases their habitability by 10%, but they will probably soon research something against it. They're strong, their army damage is increased by 20%, and worker pop resource output by 2.5%, so they also have something for the workers, at least a little bit. Their deviance, governing ethics attraction is -15%. We'll see how that goes. Usually it's not a problem at the start, and this is why it's a great pick at the start, because the early game is the most important part of the game to get you spiraling. Rapid breeders as well, gives a nice starting bonus, so it's well balanced between long-term outlook, technology, and short-term advantages with things like strong, deviance, rapid breeders, and mechanists. They start the game with 8 pops being robots, and with the technology and infrastructure to build more, robot upkeep is decreased by 5%, so they are well on their way to an early synthetic ascension maybe, with a technocracy on their arid world of Telem. Knowledge is power. Through this power, we will learn everything the universe has to offer, and we will bend it to our will, that the best of us lead us on our way to the future, a great future. We'll see if they can spiral out of control like in the last patch, like technocracies used to do. The Tebrid Trade Association is a corporate trade league. 10% more unity, empire size effect plus 25%. It's very interesting because they're also starting, as you can see here, on an orbital habitat. They have trading posts. Their starbase capacity is +4. Early on, that can be a big deal. They have private prospectors. Private colony ship is unlocked. And empire size from systems goes down by 33%, balancing out the corporate empire size effect. They're also fanatic xenophile, having an easier time doing friendships and having 20% more trade value and 2 more available envoys, but will have to get some refugees, cannot enslave entire species, cannot displace aliens. Increased opinion though for other species. And they are pacifists. Empire size from Pops goes down by 15%, and stability goes up by 5. Cannot use unrestricted wars, cannot engage in indiscriminate orbital bombardment. That's not what they want. They want to be in a federation and rule the world from there, probably. Their void dwellers, pop output on habitats is increased by 15%. Output on non-artificial worlds is decreased by 15%. Pop growth speed decreased by 10%. Pop happiness on non-artificial worlds is decreased by a whopping 30%. So they want these refugees to settle the other planets. They will stay on their orbital habitats and shovel in the money. They're thrifty, 25% more trade value from jobs, slow learners, so their leaders will learn a little bit slower, 25%. Scintillating skin, each pop working as a slave or better produces 0.01 rare crystals per month. And they are weak. Their worker pop resource output is decreased slightly by 2.5%. Their army damage is decreased a lot by 20%, which is not that bad for a civilization that is not dependent on war. And of course, they're also lithoids using minerals instead of food to sustain themselves. Pop growth speed is decreased by 25%. Pop assembly speed as well. Habitability is increased by 50%, army health by 50%, and leader lifespan by +50. So if they decide, or if they don't have other species coming to them early on, they can expand to these planets because of their hefty habitability bonus. They're void dwellers. So this means they start on 3 orbital habitats. Members of the species thrive on them, produce 15% more severe habitability penalties, alongside a -15% production penalty on all normal planets, and additionally, your hydroponic farms have 1 more farmer jobs. It's a really cool combination, but they don't even need the hydroponic farms because they have minerals, and they will be fueled through their space stations, basically. Havoc Tavarite is a sapient crystal that seems to only naturally grow in a microgravity environment. It exhibits numerous features not normally found in minerals, such as the development of organs and reproductive abilities. No one knows how Tavarite came to exist, but it seems to have developed on 3 ancient space stations in the Erie system, whose builders were long extinct by the time Tavarites discovered writing. Tavaritan society developed much like any organic society, and by the time of unity between the stations, a single megacorporation on their largest space station united all Tavarites. Now they seek only peace and trade out in the stars, the best crystals out there. The Tavarites. I'm really, really looking forward to see how they can perform. Because Void Dwellers is usually hard for the AI, but there's a couple of things that make it easier for them to expand out there, and maybe to get refugees that will expand their realm. Looking so much forward to it. We'll see how they will perform. The unicorns, the lithoid unicorns. Now we come to the invasive algae, and opposite to their name, they're actually pretty friendly. So they're democratic, at automatic resettlement chance plus 50%, which is a great bonus in the end. They have idyllic bloom, can build Gaia seeders on worlds ideal to your starting species. Facilities spread across the planet progressively bring it closer to becoming a Gaia world through 4 upgrade phases. Very, very interesting. And they have a diplomatic corps, further fueling their xenophilia. So they have 2 more available envoys and 10% more diplomatic weight. They will do great founding a federation. They're egalitarian, allowing for utopian living standards. Faction unity gain is increased by 25% and special pop resource output by 5%. They're also fanatic xenophile. Increased opinion for other species, cannot use no refugees, cannot enslave species, cannot displace aliens. Trade value is increased by 20% and available envoys by another 2. So they have 4 more available envoys. They will do so well diplomatically. If they just use that to increase opinion of others, they can build a great federation. They are budding. Each pop working as a slave or better produces 0.02 monthly organic pop assembly, which will help them spread. They are aquatic. So ocean habitability is increased by 20% using housing usage on ocean worlds and flooded habitats is decreased by 10%. Food, energy, and mineral output on ocean worlds is also increased by 10%. And on non-wet worlds, which means all other worlds except ocean worlds, continental worlds, and tropical worlds, housing usage is increased by 30%, and habitability is decreased by another 20%. And they can choose the hydrocentric ascension perk. And this one is then amplified in the traits effects. So ice mining is just great for them too. They are unruly, empire size from pops plus 10%. Which is not bad at the start, so they will not be hampered too much by it, but maybe in the end times. But then they'll be in a federation, so maybe it balances out. They're adaptive. Habitability increased by 10%, which further helps an early expansion also on other wet worlds or even non-net wet worlds. They are wasteful though. Pop consumer goods upkeep is increased by 10%, but the AI can handle that better, so it might be good. We'll see how it works out with their lost colony, because that will spawn an advanced empire of this species somewhere in the galaxy. We'll see how that works out. Usually the lost colony doesn't really, it kind of sleeps, right? It doesn't expand too much, but we'll see how it has changed in the patch. The civilization originated as a lost and forgotten colony separated from its homeworld long ago. The struggling colonists endured many hardships before they were able to build up the necessary technological and industrial base that would allow for a return to space. They can win this. I'm pretty sure of that. If they build a great federation, the invasive algae can win this. And that's something crazy to say for a democracy. That's usually democracies and like friendly civs empires are usually in the middle of the park. They don't go bust and they usually don't dominate. But this could be a difference. We'll see how that goes. So, see you at the time lapse later on. So I've done a test run with the invasive algae and all others, and the lost colony actually had a really, really big impact. And we just have to change that. It already started at the top of the list, and it basically the invasive algae lost colony dominated the game. I just let it run a couple years into it, and it didn't behave passively. So what we need to do here is, because the lost colony starts with already 3 planets settled and everything like that, so it's impossible for the others to make points against that. It wouldn't be fair. So we have to change lost colony, and I think I will not let lost colony empires changing it to another origin. I think the most normal origin to change it to would be a prosperous unification. And prosperous unification is not a bad thing. It's the origin the AI usually deals best with. We could go Ocean Paradise here, but that would stop them from having guaranteed habitable planets nearby, which could screw them up a bit. So we're just going to choose the prosperous unification here. And I hope you understand that I have to change this, because otherwise they're just spiraling out of control, right? So they will do better on their own, using the prosperous unification also instead of the Lost Colony. While I totally understand that in single player it can be very nice, because if you meet your advanced civilization out there from which you come, and you're geared in that way, then you can easily start a friendship with them in the Federation. So it's a great thing to play single player, but we have to change that for the tournament. Otherwise, it's just not fair. It's just spiraling out of control. So that's the new invasive algae.